Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be trying to figure out what the best licking branch is for your mock scrape with a little experiment that I've set up. So what we have here is a beech tree, which is already one of the preferred trees that bucks like to scrape under on this property. But along with the beech tree, we've also hung several other preferred licking branches from the same tree. So right next to me here, we've got a grapevine, we've got a white oak branch hanging, and we also have a hemp rope. I've never tried that before, but I know there's a lot of people that like hanging ropes for mock scrapes. I did a little bit of research before hanging that one up, so hopefully I did it correctly. But before we actually dive into this particular experiment, there are a few things that I would recommend if you are trying to install mock scrapes on your property. The biggest thing that you want to consider when choosing a licking branch for your property, you need to figure out what the bucks are scraping under in your area. If you don't have beech trees in your area, I wouldn't really recommend hanging a beech branch. If you don't have white oaks in the area, I really wouldn't recommend hanging a white oak. I would find out what those bucks are scraping under on your property, choose that tree species, and use that for your licking branch. But the reason that we chose these 4 licking branches is because the 3 properties that we hunt on, these 3 in particular, the white oak, the grapevine, and the beech tree, are the licking branches our bucks seem to prefer over the other species. And there might be research on this, I'm really not sure, but one of the main reasons that I feel that bucks are choosing these species to scrape under is that these particular tree species hold their leaves a lot longer than others. The whole reason that deer are using these licking branches and scraping during the rut is to leave information behind. They're leaving this information on the leaves, they're leaving it on the grapevine, and because those trees hold their leaves a lot longer, that information stays there. If they're using a maple tree to deposit their scent, they drop their leaves relatively early. So all that information would be lost. And I strongly believe that that's why they're choosing these oak species, the beech trees, and these grapevines, because they hold their leaves so much longer than the other species. If you take a walk through your property in early January and you're finding those scrapes from that past deer season, there's one thing that's going to be pretty consistent. A lot of those trees that they're scraping under are still going to have leaves on them. And again, that means those leaves are still holding scent, still holding information for those deer to communicate with one another. So what we've done here, it's kind of just for fun. I have no idea if it's going to work or not. There are so many licking branches in the same little spot that I have no idea if they're going to go straight to one or if they're going to use all of them. But I like to play around with this kind of stuff just to see if there is a difference, if they do like one over the other. Even if they do pick one over the other, it might not even necessarily mean that they prefer that one. If for some reason the white oak branch gets the most hits, that doesn't necessarily mean that they prefer the white oak the most. It might just mean that they like that the way that that's positioned the most, or if that's the way they came in, that was the first one that they saw. We're not going to look too far into this. I just thought this would be kind of a fun experiment to try. So the plan is to hang a trail camera on a tree just to your left so it can watch this location. And every time a deer comes in and checks one of these licking branches, I'll put a tally down for that particular licking branch. And throughout the season, I'll keep it going, and whichever licking branch has the most tallies by the end will be the winner. So again, we have 4 different types of licking branches. We have the beech tree, we've got the grapevine, the white oak, and we also have a hemp rope. I know there's a lot of guys that like hanging ropes for their mock scrapes. I've never done it personally, but I thought, what the heck, I'll throw that in there and see what happens. Let's hang a trail camera, let this area sit for a couple months and see what happens. It's done. A few months, several pounds, and a scruffy beard later, it's done. After going through hundreds of videos, hours of footage, I have finally input all the data from the licking branch experiment. I obviously separated each of the licking branches into their own column, but I also broke it down by antlered and antlerless deer. I didn't really have any idea if this would make a difference or not, but I did know that it wouldn't be any harder to input the information that way, so that's what I did. But here are the results, and I will just leave this up on the screen so you can take a look at it. And first, let's just kind of briefly go over how I input the data, and then we'll kind of go over what I noticed overall about this experiment. So first, how I input the data, I really did not complicate this whatsoever. Basically, if a deer made contact or checked a particular licking branch, I made a tally. If the deer hit more than one licking branch, then I made a tally for each one. Now, if that deer happened to loop back around and hit one of the same licking branches twice, I did not mark it down twice. Each individual deer could only account for one hit per licking branch per visit. In order for me to mark it down again, that deer would have to leave for an hour or so and then come back, and then I would start counting again. There was also a little bit of a delay in between videos. I think it was probably around a 3-second delay when I'm looking at the seconds timer, and every once in a while, there would be a deer moving from one licking branch to another, and sometimes I think I would miss the interaction with a particular licking branch. But most of the time, if I did miss it, you could still see that licking branch was swinging or moving around after they had just left it. And so in those instances, if I did have that happen, I would mark that down as a hit. So that's basically how I counted and input the information for this experiment. Again, it's not perfect, but I tried just to keep it as simple as possible. And now let's kind of talk about this graph. Obviously, the first thing that really jumps out to me is that the natural beech limb, the licking branch that's connected to this tree, received the most attention. And just the fact that the beech tree was number one didn't really surprise me, because the beech tree is one of the most preferred species for a licking branch here in Michigan. So again, having it come in first with the most touches was pretty consistent with where we find a lot of natural scrapes in the woods. What did surprise me, however, is that the beech limb outperformed the grapevine by almost double. I have a pretty good feeling with how everything was going as I was inputting the data, that if I had left this experiment going for another month or so, that there would have been a pretty good chance that the number of hits the beech limb received would have doubled the licking branch that came in second place. And as you can see here, that's the grapevine. And so let's move to the grapevine. And just as I had mentioned, the grapevine did very well, and I'm sure that does not come to a surprise to anyone. Again, it received the second most touches over the past few months. Another interesting piece of information is that we had a 3-year-old buck that was coming into this food plot every once in a while, always at night, and that deer only used the grapevine. So, I mean, you can take that however you want. Overall, I think this graph shows, not that we need any more evidence, that the grapevine is a great option for a mock scrape licking branch. Moving kind of around the horn here, another thing that did surprise me was how well the hemp rope did. The deer were almost as interested as leaving their scent on the hemp rope as they were the grapevine. And to be honest, I did not think the rope would get as much attention as it did. I knew that they would check it out initially because deer are very curious, but I thought that after the initial curiosity, the hemp rope would kind of dry up. But that just wasn't the case. They were on that rope the entire season. After putting one up, watching the deer hit it all season, and seeing the number of tallies it got compared to other licking branches, does this mean that I'm going to be switching to hemp rope mock scrapes? No, it doesn't. To me, what this could mean is that if you're somebody that doesn't really have grapevines on your property, that you don't have beech trees, you don't have oaks, or any of the other preferred species, you could try a hemp rope in its place. There are a few videos that I watched online before placing that one, just to make sure I was installing it correctly to give it the best chance. But if you guys would like me to make a video on that as well, just let me know in the comments and I can definitely do that. And last but not least, we had the hanging oak branch, and that was another thing that surprised me, was the lack of use for my hanging oak branch. This was a Bur Oak, and it's a species that the deer on this particular property really like to scrape under. So I was expecting this to get a lot of attention. And as you can see just from the graph, that wasn't the case. And it really wasn't even close. And that surprised me because this is how we personally made mock scrapes in the past, and we've had great success with them. I'm not really sure what happened with this white oak branch. Maybe when the deer are given a choice between these different licking branches in the same location, the hanging oak branch is just not their preferred choice. Again, I really don't know. This experiment was far from perfect, so you can take away from it what you want. If hanging oak branches is how you make scrapes now, and you are having success, I would not change what you're doing. There really could have been some variable that I'm not aware of that put this oak branch at a disadvantage compared to others. I really don't know. So what is the best licking branch for a mock scrape? Well, in this particular case, it was the beech limb, and it was the one that was attached to this tree. Does that mean that it's going to be the beech limb in every single situation? Probably not. As you can see, the grapevine got a lot of use, the hemp rope got a lot of use, hanging oak branch, not so much. But I thought that this would be something fun to do during the season just to see if there was going to be a big difference. Before going through the videos, I really thought that the grapevine along with the beech tree limb would be competing for the #1 spot. And as you can see in this particular instance, the beech tree won by kind of a long shot. But that was our mock scrape licking branch experiment. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you do have any questions or any criticisms, please drop those in the comment section below. I'll get back to those as soon as I can, and we will see you guys in the next video.